talking to the media. Aaron Rodgers gets asked the question, is this terrible season changing your mind about coming back and playing next year? And he said no. He said, you planning on playing next year? I think so, yeah. And he said it in a confident way, which should scare the hell out of Jets fans. I thought he'd be done. I thought that he feels like there's more he can do in his life than go out there and lose football games in a Jets uniform. But if he really wants to play next year, I don't think the Jets have much of a choice but to keep him, because if you look at the contract, they would have to really eat a lot of money and a lot of dead money just to get rid of him. But they're going to need a new coach and a new GM, and then 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers is going to be sitting there. You can't get rid of him. They got to force him into retirement. They got to get him out of there. They have to. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, G. I'm doing well. Unfortunately for that Nick loss last night, which was really just, it was a gut punch, 100%. There's no other way to put it. And as you said, we will get into that. But I don't blame Aaron for saying that. Who knows? He's learned over the years. Nothing is etched in stone, and you just never know. You want to keep the possibility out there. It will be very difficult for the Jets to trade pre-June 1st or post-June 1st. And post-June 1st obviously means they can save a little bit more money on the salary cap, and they don't take quite as big a hit as if they do something pre-June 1st. But
yeah, but actually, if you look at it, so I was looking at it this morning, it's not as stark as it usually is, the June 1st stuff, because there's dead money that carries over into 2026 if you do it June 1st, whereas like all the money is gone in 2025. It just really screws up your 2025 cap. So like both options there with the dead cap, post June 1st, pre June 1st, are terrible.
Yeah, and they're going to have to sign other guys too. So this is a part of it, and is Devontae Adams going to stay? I'm sure that contract's going to end because there's an opt out there as well. If they decide to go with a new general manager, the next general manager will have to clean up whatever he sees as a mess that is left behind, or maybe it's such a convoluted kind of structured the way they have things going on over there right now. Maybe they don't get another general manager. Maybe they keep Joe Douglas, and maybe they get a new coach. They're going to have to get a new coach one way or the other. We know that. They're not going to, unless something spectacular happens, there's no way that this group is staying here. There's no way. Unless Woody has some side deal with Aaron Rodgers that he made to convince Aaron Rodgers to come here and take less money, by the way.
Yeah, and I was talking about the Jet job being one of the worst in the league, one of the worst situations, thinking Aaron Rodgers was going to retire. It becomes even worse if he's going to stay.
That's not true.
Why?
Because any coach in their right mind wants an established quarterback. They want to know what they have. And I know he's not what he was when he was 32 or 27. I know that. I see it just like everybody else does. But he still can play. And you could still see that there are remnants of what he is. And if there was a better support system, and I'm not talking about offensively, maybe the offensive line a little bit better, but defensively, if they were a lot better and played like they had played the previous 2 years, I think that maybe you could still get something from him. But because of the money, I do believe if he wants to come back, he's going to be back, and he's going to be the quarterback next year, and maybe they draft a young kid and we start all over again that way. So I wouldn't doubt that whoever is coaching the Jets next year would at least try to run it back one more year with him to try to get what's left out of him, maybe in a better and more structured situation.
Okay, so you're right about coaches wanting an established quarterback, but in this situation, you're seeing a guy who is not nearly the same player as he was. Now we're going to be a year older next year.
Yeah, I know.
And he's not going to play a year after that. So now you've got 1 year of a dusty Aaron Rodgers, and then what?
Yeah, I know. This is they were all in over these last 2 years. Oh. We know that, and we're hoping to be in for 3 full years. And Aaron, I think, kind of told them that, and in order to make the trade, and things have gone haywire. And it all started plays into his first year here. I don't know what else to tell you. It is a colossal mess. There's no question about that. But when you're done with all of this year, and they'll figure out where they are in the draft, they'll figure out what's going on. They'll probably be in the middle of the draft. You watch, they'll probably win a number of these games here towards the end of the season that mean nothing, and they'll drop in the draft, and they'll have to decide whether or not one of these young quarterbacks is a potential for the future. But again, if it's a new GM and a new coach, that will be interesting.
Now, other than getting paid the money that he would get paid on that contract,
which is a lot.
Yeah, but other than that, which is a big deal, I'm not minimizing that. Why would Aaron Rodgers want to go through that? Why would he want to go through another GM, another head coach, another training camp, another losing season, more hits? I mean, it's a lot of money.
That's why.
But Jesus, he's made so much in his career. Now he's going to go through that and then be maybe even worse next year than he was this year?
Who says he couldn't be better than he was this year?
Oh, okay, fine. You can live on that thought. He is done.
I don't think the Jet. I mean, honestly, looking at the contract, that's big money, and it's going to be his money if he wants it. And he was kind of. I wouldn't say he was 100% yesterday. I think he was just playing the long game. Like, hey, we'll see. I'm feeling like, I want to go again. And
yeah, Jerry will play it, and it does to me though. I mean, it sounds like that's what his idea is right now. That if you were to have to make that decision today, that he would come back. Now things could change, and maybe will change. Operating under the thought that he's coming back, the situation is even that much more so a mess for the Jets, because I think it's even harder to find a coach in that situation.
But you just talked about I don't know if it is or not, depending on who that coach is. Again, if you went to John Gruden and you said, do you want Aaron Rodgers for a year? I guarantee you he would say yes.
Yeah, okay.
I guarantee you. But then, yes.
All right, you Aaron Rodgers for a year, and then what? And then also on top of it is being like, so Matt LaFleur, you got Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, they're done, right? So they had a terrible relationship. Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, they couldn't wait to get rid of him towards the end and move on to Jordan Love. He comes here, Rob Saleh gets fired. Like, are coaches running to Aaron Rodgers? I mean,
but I mean, like it would be 1 year of a coach's hopefully long run here. Every time a coach signs a contract, whether it be Brian Daboll, or whether it be Rob Saleh, or any of the coaches that came before them, they all want to sign contracts where they can have a run like Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh and Bill Belichick and Andy Reid. They want those long-term, deals because they're successful. They'd love to start with a quarterback that, believe it or not, is still got a lot left to give. It may not be what you're used to seeing, and we are getting the remnants of him at the end of his career, much like the Bucs were getting the remnants of Tom Brady at the end of his career. And you saw what happened with Denver. Peyton Manning could barely throw the ball, and they went to the Super Bowl with him. Different personalities for sure. There's no question about that, and that's why I think that Aaron's personality is so big, and so when he walks into the room, there's so much deference given to him, and so much expected of him because of his reputation and what he's accomplished as a football player, that sometimes it has a negative effect on the roster and on the team and on the coaching staff. I mean, whoever they bring in here next year, if Aaron Rodgers is going to be here, they better bring in a guy that has got a huge personality and has got a handle on things. And that's why when we do talk about specifics or specifically talking about the Jet head coaching spot right now, given what the potential for next year looks like, it's got to be somebody that can handle this. And there are very few guys out there that can handle this.
No, I agree, and that's really the biggest point when it comes to the Jets head coach. You just can't go to some coordinator who's never been a head coach, who doesn't know New York or hasn't had the experience.
The only coordinator I would think, that you would think of would be Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, because he's coached here and in New York,
and he's got a great reputation.
Yeah, right. So that would be certainly one that would make sense. I'd be interested if I were the Jets. If he's got multiple opportunities, though, this is going to be at the bottom of the list.
Would Aaron Glenn be a guy that you'd be interested in? Could Aaron Glenn come here and handle it?
He knows the team. He knows New York, but he's also someone who has never been a head coach, and it's a hard thing to do at this point in Jets history. But they may not have a choice. But I like. The perfect candidate may not exist, If you don't get a John Gruden, and he's not perfect either, we know the issues that he has had. I would just think if I'm a head coach coming in and I know that I've got a rebuild in 2026 happening, that it's just really hard to not get started on that right away.
Yeah, I don't think that I because of the salary and because of everything else, I would just think that if you were an established coach like John Gruden, he would give his right arm to work with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, believe it or not.
Yeah, but he knows a rebuild is coming the next year.
But I'm just telling you, he would give his right arm to coach with him. He'd love to coach him. Now, they may butt heads a few times, and there may be some, different things that Aaron would have to learn under an offense that would be run by John Gruden. John Gruden would have to really make sure that, he could fit this offense to what Aaron likes to do, if in fact that would be the case. But to me, it's obvious that it has to be somebody that can walk into that. I do think Rob Saleh had a little of that when he first got here. He had a little of that bravado, had a little bit of that control of the players. I do believe that the players like playing for him. There must have been something going on, on that plane coming back from London after their loss to the Vikings that, really pushed Woody Johnson into firing Rob Saleh that we may never know. I don't know if only Woody knows. I don't even think Joe Douglas knows what happened and why.
What's the amount of money you got the contract there? What's the amount of money that Aaron Rodgers would make next year if he plays?
Next year, it looks like $37 million, and his cap hit is $23.5.
Yeah, I mean that's a that's a tough thing to turn down, regardless of how much money you've made in your career.
And why should he turn it down if he feels like he could still play, and he could play at a level that's at least reasonable?
Well, my take on it was that he's different than, because when you made the comparison with Brady and Manning and saying different personalities, that's where I'm basing that on. Now, I think money can change everything, and it does with a lot of people. But, Aaron Rodgers, to me, is someone who much easier than those other guys could say, I'm not enjoying this anymore. I don't have it, and there's other things I want to do in my life, and I want to start that now. Like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were going to squeeze out every ounce of what they had in football before they hung it up. And I feel like Aaron Rodgers just has a totally different personality than that. All things equal. Now, when you're telling me $37 million you're walking away from when it's your last opportunity to make that type of salary, that's a tough thing to do. But my premise was the fact that he's just a different guy. As we always say, complicated fellow, all of these things that, he had, like, Peyton Manning couldn't wait to do something else with football when he was done. Tom Brady couldn't wait to do something else with football. Aaron Rodgers will be gone. He's going to be wearing a bandana somewhere in Egypt.
I think Tom Brady still wanted to play, to be honest with you.
Well, of course.
What was going on in his personal life and everything else. I'm not so sure that he didn't want to play. But anyway, the thing about, Aaron is that when he first got here and we first saw them on Hard Knocks, I thought he was great because he was telling his quarterbacks, including Zach Wilson, get to know your other teammates, hang out with those guys, be around those people, get to know who they are. That was all the kind of leadership stuff that you love to see from a veteran quarterback that is stepping into a team that seemed leaderless at the time. And I would also say that a guy like C.J. Mosley is badly missed on the field. You can only lead so much in the locker room, from the training room. You have to be out there with your guys to be able to be a leader. And they really, when he is not on the field, they are a completely different team.
Yeah.
That's a big loss for them. And unfortunately for him, his short time here, he's had to endure a lot of injuries.
If that Jet defense doesn't play this week, play well this week, they should just quit for the rest of the year. Coming off the embarrassment that they had now with Anthony Richardson as the quarterback with the Colts, they have to play a good game, that defense. They absolutely have to. If they have any pride at all, they play well this week. But that's another story. Yeah, this is more complicated than I even thought. If Aaron Rodgers is coming back.
But he kind of gave like a 3-year commitment to the Jets when this whole thing first started.
When this whole thing started, nobody knew this was going to be the disaster that it was.
He was going to get hurt. You don't.
That's my point.
It'd be like the Knicks and I'm knocking on wood right now. It's like this.
No,
So
no,
the
just don't even do it. Just don't even say
the
it.
Knicks went all in for Karl Anthony Towns. Now, he's not at the end of his career. He's right in the middle of his career, and I didn't realize how good he really is on offense. Oh, my God, is he good. But I would just say, like, if he goes down, something happens to him, and they lose him for the year, that's exactly what happened to the Jets last year. Like, all of the hype, all of the hope, all of the energy that was going into 2023 was evaporated in 4 plays.
Yeah, which is why the 3-year commitment that he gave before all of that happened really, to me, means nothing, because now we know how it went. He missed an entire year, and this year they stink. So it's you just want it to end now. Enough.
I would just say,
pull the plug.
if I could put myself in his shoes, I wouldn't want it to end this way, whether it be here or if I get to go play for somebody else. Maybe they make a trade. I don't know, and they figure something else out. I don't know.
Tough to do business.
But I would not want it to end like this.
But you have a different mentality than he does.
No, I don't know. If I wasn't making $37 million at the end.
Yeah, I know.
Like, he's making a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of do-re-mi, Biggs.
Well, I think that's the only reason.
Man.
But that's the only reason why he would come back.
Man, if you and I could make that for 1 year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, the first thing I would do? Regulator for you, Biggs.
Oh, wow, thank you.
And I'd get you a membership at the club of your choice.
Oh, I appreciate that.
If I could.
That's very, very nice of you. Thank you.
Maybe Augusta.
In this.
We could fly your private jet down there.
Sure, $37 million for 1 year. It'd be great in this hypothetical world. Yeah, well,
that's what we're talking about. I mean, like, that's the kind of dough we're talking about.
Yeah, I know,
but you can't just expect somebody to turn his back on that. That's
I'm not. But I haven't said that at all. I said that's the seeing that and knowing that makes me think that that's the only reason he's going to stay, but he shouldn't. I mean, if all things were equal and you took that money out of it, he would be gone.
Well, you can't take the money out of it.
He would be gone.
Just like I can't give you the regulator, just like I can't get you into Augusta, just like I can't get you
but the
private jet.
The point that I'm trying to make is that everything else is working against him playing, and the only thing that would keep him around is the money. And I'm not blaming him for that.
Yes.
It's just that everything else says, get out of here.